deep understanding of physics of half of these dimensions, like I said, are concealed. You can't even see them. But the flip side is, like I want to say it one more time, the enemy, the other side, because of the way things going, because, like I think we got this bag over our head, he's out there still manipulating, and which is a really good word, manipulating these forces, the elements for his end game. Okay, but whatever. God is still in control. It's all going to play out the way it's going to play out. So anyways, I just wanted to say some of that because now, how do I pull this all back together? Because I just want to give you, again, some of these words, you have to understand, you have to kind of get your mind around the Hebraic understanding. The worst thing Gentile Christianity ever did was separate itself from the root system, from the vine, which was Judah had kept, which were the Jews, basically, which is kind of in the parable, the older brother. He stayed in the house. They still know who they are, but that's a whole story. We're not going to go there. But it gets down to trees. Okay, now when we get to Adam, we're going to start to unpack this. Now let me say this because my end goal, I want to start to unpack the concept of the Gentiles, God's brilliant plan, which is playing out beautifully, to scatter his DNA, because really when you get all down to this, into the Gentiles, to basically reap a harvest there, okay? To get a crop, to get sons and daughters, okay? Basically. It's a beautiful plan, and it's playing out. But because we got the bag over our head, we don't know this. Okay. Adam. Okay, let me just talk about this for a second. Hebrew. This whole thing, when you study languages, I believe this, and this is what a good Jew will tell you, that Hebrew is the original language. Hebrew is the language of God. Okay, it's the language of Yah, and we should now is the language of Yah. Hebrew is a very interesting language. It's very different from all the others, but when the nations, everyone spoke Hebrew. This is before the Tower of Babel, and this gets into now when we unpack these things deeper, when God confounded the languages, what he did, and in essence, the consequence of that, and at the end of the age, trying to put it all back together. It's kind of a God-sized job. Anyways, Hebrew is really interesting because it's a vibrational language. It's dimensional. Okay, now what I mean is, it's the only language in the world that each letter it's a letter, but the letter is a word, and when you spell the word, there's usually 3 root letters that spell the word for the letter. Woo! I don't know if anybody got that or if I even said that correctly. It is also numerically a number, okay? And then it is also a symbol. And the most important thing to understand, it's a glyph. Hebrew is originally, okay, Paleo Hebrew was a glyph, which you kind of can understand the word hieroglyph. A glyph is a symbol. Okay, now this is so important to understand because, how can I say it? Symbols can pack, you know how it says a picture is worth 1,000 words? Literally. So the picture, okay, and I'll start, this is the Aleph, which is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Pictographically in the old days was like this, okay? And this, if you understood what this was saying, literally 1,000 words minimum, to explain, this is the firmament, this is the waters above, and this is the waters below. Okay, who knew? Okay, so the deepness, and when I say it's vibrational, because its numerical value is 1, okay? And so this is kind of where they get into the whole grammatica of the thing. So when you unpack words and you combine, you add up. So this word is worth 22 grammaticas. This word is worth 22. The alpha is worth 1. When you add them together, you get 45, and why that's important, okay? And that's a whole, I just surfaced totally. The grammaticas, I'm not, but it's just there. It's real. Okay, so Hebrew is a word that is a symbol. And the symbol is a picture which tells 1,000 words, okay? It's also a number. It has a numerical value. And it also is broken down into roots. Okay, now this is so important to understand, because when it is a DNA, literally, this functions like a DNA. It is a code. It's a language of code. So you can put it together. Remember I told you how the 4 elements were combining and separating? The only language in the world, I wish my son would hear this. The only language in the world that is like this is the chemical language, which is also based on symbols, which pack all the elements, the understanding of what that thing is. So it's a chemical language. It's really funny. But you have to understand this. So the Adam, we're going to try to unpack this thing and what's left, okay? Because there's 3 words basically that are used to explain for the word man, okay? And this is highly important because the Gentiles, you understand what's going on here. The Adam, now technically, we are people who are human beings, humanoids, Homo sapiens, okay? I think are Adamic. I've used it of the Adamic race, the Adamic species. But you know what? They've even discovered in archaeology, they've already got 3, you got the Neanderthals, the Denisovans, the Homo sapiens, and who knows how there's a different humanoids, because it's all about humanoids. Where we're going, it's going to blow people's mind. There are many sons of God, many sons, okay? Humanoid beings, okay? The humanoid would refer to all right, let's not even go there. Okay, so let me just try to go through this really quick. The Aleph is the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet. The Aleph actually, and bet, the second letter, alphabet. Okay, where do you think we get the word alphabet, which is the whole concept, is 22 letters. But, remember I told you that the Aleph, which is, and I should say this, Aleph is really, it's a letter. It is always silent. It has no pronunciation. So when you see, because I've taken Hebrew now, and when you see the Aleph, you just kind of blow by it. Unless it has like a vowel down there, so you kind of pronounce its vowel. But you don't pronounce, the Aleph has no sound, and it represents kind of Yahweh in his most all-encompassing, mysterious, he's God. How can I explain him to you? How can I tell, what am I going to say? I'm speechless before him. He is God, Yahweh, okay? Yah. But remember I told you that this whole concept is the firmament with the waters above and the waters below. This gets so interesting because I'll tell you something. When we get to understand this, and this is why, because we've got to get there, because it's very important that we accurately, church, listen to me. We have to accurately interpret biblically, correctly, the mark of the beast to people. We have to have an answer for the hope that is in us, because it says if people have the mark of the beast, they're cut off from the eternal salvation that's on. That's a pretty serious consequence. So let's quit being all over the place and being stupid. I'm so done with the school of stupid. And let's get back to our Hebraic roots. Let's figure this thing out, okay? Because a mark is another word for sign. A sign is a mark. And I'm telling you what, these are all concepts as far as we're concerned in the Adamic, or in trying to figure out who we are. I mean, we're not talking about, I'm not trying to figure out the salvation for cats or dogs. I mean, it's just not what I'm trying to talk about for humanoid, the species of Adam, Adamites, or those who were offered it, okay? So we've got to find out what's the mark of the beast, okay? What is it? All right? So anyways, let's get back to this Aleph. Is letter 1 kind of the silent presence of God that is in everything, okay? That's the first. Now, Dalet this is a D. This is, so I am spelling, and it goes from right to left Hebrew, because they're right, and everybody's out left. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, the Dalet is a D. Its numerical value is 22, but in its word, when you spell the word, okay, so take the Aleph away, okay? Now we're stuck, we got these two, which is a Dalet and a Mem. This is the letter M, okay? Now remember, they're symbols. And if you could see these in the Paleo-Hebrew, okay, I believe, I wish I had my Hebrew here, that this is the ox head. This is water, but you know, in its beginning, it was chaos. It was in the Paleo, which is more the glyph, which is the symbol. Okay, so we've lost a lot. We're kind of like tracking like the nations now. We just have letters, but their symbol has been lost from us by and large, okay? But the word so the A is for the Aleph, which is in Adam. Remember? What's important to understand this, because God says, let us make man. This is, all right, so this number 127. Okay, there's 3 words basically for man in your Strongs, and you have to understand. The Adam is number 127. There's a lot of root words off of Adam, Adamah, and blood, and dirt, and all this kind of stuff. 582 is the word Enosh, which is another word for man. And then you have the word Ish, which is number 376 in your Strongs. And these are all used all over the place. Translate, and trying to figure this out has been crazy. But we probably won't get into the Ish, but we've got to really at least get to understanding when a prophet uses the word, when they're writing the Enosh for man or Adam for man. There's a world. They're very precise. They know exactly what we're saying. I'm telling you what, they're not confused. We're confused. Okay, so this D, which is the letter Dalet, which Dalet and Mem put together spell Dam, which is the word for blood. Now we know that the life of the flesh, the life is in the blood. In other words, and I've said what it's really talking about is our soul life, okay, is in the blood. It's contained in the blood. This is so deep because this is why the other side does the weird things they do with blood. There is, and water. So you take, but what comes in, even I can say Kabbalistic, encrypted understandings. Remember I said you had a firmament, water's above, water's below. Okay, everybody's trying to figure this out. The waters above are masculine. You read some of this literature. So people, if I'm talking to you and you've read like Enoch and some of this stuff, it talks about the waters above being masculine and the waters below being feminine. I mean, what is it talking about? Okay, it knows what it's talking about. We have to figure this out. And like I said, soul life. Jesus came to save our souls. In the part of us, the Adamic species that was created in the image of God. Remember he said, let us make man in our image, our likeness. Okay, so you have the Aleph here saying, and if you get into this, the whole Godhead, I won't go there, deciding to make an Adam, a man who is made up of blood and water, and he is now in the image of God. And if you continue to read your text, he is now all of a sudden a living soul. Okay? But what's really interesting is, and this is just the grammatic of this thing, so the name of God, if you've done your Hebrew stuff, you know this, Yod, He, Vav, He. is the unpronounceable name of God. It's sort of their shortened, decrypted, abbreviated, all-encompassing, it means deep stuff, name for God, which has a grammatica of 45, okay? So God in his, all right, so he has now made in his image, as he says, an Adam who is in his image, who also, when you add up the grammaticas of this, comes to 45. This is the precision. He's not 46 and he's not 44. He's 45, which is the same grammatica as the Yad, He, Vav, He, the name for God. Okay? Now, when you get the grammatica, again, when you get into it, the Dalet, the D is the blood, which is the soul, is 22, which is really referenced up here in the waters above, which are masculine, which you can't think. Now, you've got to put your first grade understanding away. We're talking about attributes. Oh, I can't even go there. All right. And mem, which is a 22. So 22 and 22, what do you think has 22 and 22 that come together to make 44? What do you think they make? Well, if you take the DNA on the female side and the DNA on the man side, or if you take the ovum and the sperm and put them together with it, they make 44. Oh, which makes an but then you got to add 1. This is in the part of the image of God. This is what's so interesting and precise. You add the 1 in the whole word, one part, so maybe we're just one part. This is called the divine spark that's in us. We're one part God. It works for me. Okay, anyways, which is 45. So you take the 22 and the 22, and you add the Alf, and you get 45, which is the same grammatica as the name of God. It's all very incredible. But what is more incredible is to understand what is being said in this DAM, in this Dalet plus water, the 22 and the 22, because in here, this is the whole story. And there's so much, a lot of, I want to admit the word, like I said, it talks about the waters above being masculine and the waters below. And this gets into a lot of why we're down here as the bride, and we're going to come up and we're going to marry. The bride of Christ is going to marry her groom, masculine, which is Tiferet, and then we're going to be again, united with him. All these things are really kind of conceptually saying the same reality. Okay, something happened. There was a divide. And the 22 and the 22, remember, there were as above, so below. You need your soul. So in other words, an Adamic man has programs running in him. Because really, this is the water. Oh gosh. It's just so much. But it's just fascinating to me. Okay, so this is the soul life. It takes a soul life because I'm a body, a soul, and a spirit. I got one part alpha in me, right? I got 22 chromosomes from my male side, okay? And I have 22 from the female side, okay? Which makes me, in its totality, an Adamite, okay? An Adam. But the chromosomes, when you get down into this, what's so interesting, this is what's in those 22. Because the thing about the Hebrew alphabet, it's all about, you talk about recombinant, or let's just put it this way, you can start out with combinant DNA. God made everything, and everything could combine and separate and flow and dance and do its thing and create, and but there did get a virus in there. When we get to the other, and maybe next week we're going to have to start here again. When we get into Enosh, which I'll tell you where a lot of these words come from. These Hebrew, there's nothing frivolous okay? This represents the lower animal soul of man. Okay, so what programs, and this is why I say, what it comes down to is what programs do you have running in you? There are programs that run the marks, the signs, the DNA of the beast. The beast is not good, okay? The beast would be a word talking about the other side, okay? Beasts are lower level animal souls. Because what we have to do is kind of unpack how the Bible uses all these animal phraseologies. Are they really talking about fish? Are they really talking about cattle and sheep and the behemoth, which is cattle. Okay, or the birds. Are they really talking about birds? Well, birds equals angels, equals that whole level of watcher angels. That kind of really where he had to separate the two in the first. Oh my gosh, we'll get there. But let me just talk a little bit about. I want to say one thing here. This Enosh. Number 582, because this is so interesting, especially for people who are tracking the two bloodlines with Eve and the Nakash coming together, creating Adam. But see, and a lot of this terminology, and then God clothed Adam and Eve, and when you really get into, you begin to understand it's like a layer. So it's really kind of like our skin. See, people. I just want the church to grow up so we don't have to keep apologizing for our writings. There is nothing to apologize. The garden story, when you understand what the meaning of the word, it's a perfectly adequate way, but you have to have the keys to unpack it so that you can sound intelligent, okay? The enemy, this is what he's done. He's put a bag over our heads, so we've thrown out all our wisdom and knowledge, which came down to us from our forefathers, and we've replaced it with science, which to a certain extent, yes, there is a physical world, and you can manipulate the laws of physics and create, fly in planes and do all this stuff. But that's just a piece of the puzzle. That's like, even when you really understand the bigger picture of stuff, that's like, we really threw the baby out with the bathwater, because our science is nothing compared to what the ancients had and were capable of and were doing. Because a lot of it, let me tell you what, like I said, one of the biggest problems with Western Christianity and Western civilization, and really the demise of Western civilization, the demise of Western Christianity, which is causing the demise of Western civilization, is because of this friggin' bag we have over our head called the Enlightenment, where we don't have any understanding of our history. Okay, wait a minute. I have to put this thought together. And I just lost it. I tell you that whatever's in the water and really doing a number on it. All right, getting back to Adam. And what this really is Adam, he is a man with the Alpha. Even if it is 1%, like the one spark of the divine, it is a man, it is full of potential. This is a promise, because I will tell you one other thing. Adam means full of potential, if you look this up, but it has another translation. It also means the Jordan Valley or the Promised Land. Isn't that interesting? Again, we're going somewhere. We're going to eventually inherit a new heaven and a new earth. See, that means the waters above are going to get themselves cleaned up. All the virus programs in the waters above and all the virus programs down here in the earth as above and below are going to get it together. And we're going to have a new heaven and a new earth fully cleansed. I could just go on forever because these things are so deep. But anyways, Adam with his Alf is full of potential. In God likeness. This is the whole story with Adam all the way up until Genesis 3:6. We get the first usage, I believe, of the Enosh man. When is its first use? Okay, yes, is in Genesis 3:6. Okay, and I will pick up there, and it's translated. It's crazy. But anyways, the behemoth, I want to tell you, down here, this animal level soul, this is where a lot of they use these words like the beasts of the field, the cattle, because these are lower level animal souls, not in terms of, don't think in terms of the real four-footed cow out in the field. We're talking about programs that are operating on lower levels than the Adamic man, but it is what it is. It's because there's a big difference in here between the Adamic man with his Alf who is full of the potential of God. He has God's creativity, God's power. He has the ability to understand the mind of God, versus a behemoth, or who is really like an animal, because it means it is what it is. It's innate, it's instinctive. That's the carnal man. You can either think instinctively, innately, like an animal, or you can have the wisdom and the understanding. You can tie yourself up into, and this is actually, oh gosh, it gets so deep, the concept of the gate. You can enter into, this allows you, this one elf allows you to enter into the realm of the divine. If you don't have this elf, which is not in the word Enosh, you have no way of getting into the divine. That's it. You are strictly acting just like an animal beast. That's how the biblical authors are using these concepts. So that's kind of where I'm going to have to leave it, because as we go forward and try to unpack this, and the Gentiles and the understandings and the war of the Titans, these things, because what they're talking about with all these words is the realities of what was going on. So on that note, I am going to have to end, but I do want to just, again, exhort people to, even on the simplest level, that Jesus came to save souls. Bottom line, you were made in the image of God. You have everybody genetically. This is the great thing that Abraham did for us, is he preserved the salt of the earth. Enough genetic markers in basically the majority of the that we are still running on programs that are made in the image of God. That's why there's still some goodness in the world. There's still some mercy. There's still some beauty. We are capable of, great and mighty and wonderful things when we're at the top of our game. But the flip side is the evil that's in the world, and it has a root system, and we're going to continue to unpack it. So thank you for joining me tonight. I hope this blessed your soul. And in his name I pray. Amen.